Welcome back to Real Estate Without Borders. Today I am joined here by Dave Hutch as well as probably a cooler Daniel. He's from the land down under, currently actually broadcasting live from the middle of a cyclone, which I recently learned goes the opposite direction of a hurricane. Today we're going to talk to Dan Lee from Australia to get an understanding for what is going on in Australia's real estate market. What makes Australia's real estate market different than other real estate markets in the world? Because you guys do stuff pretty crazy down there. So Dan, give us a quick intro. Who are you? What do you do? And what do you want to tell us about what's going on down there?
Thanks, Dan and Dave. I have a real estate business myself. So I've been in real estate for about 17 years. I started as a junior associate for a high-performing agent. Then I was worked at the same company for about 10 years as an agent. Built up a team. Eventually, I left that business and started my own real estate company called Plum Property, which is in Brisbane, Australia, where, yes, we have a cyclone coming, which in America is known as a hurricane. Our whole city is shut down today. So we have about 8 hours before this thing totally hits. And it's like COVID all over again. Total panic stations, no toilet paper, supermarkets cleaned out, everyone fighting for themselves, panicking, pushing the women and children aside.
How often does that happen though? Like, it's not like Florida, right? Is it like a problem in your real estate market? Like, is it that common or?
No, it's a rare event. The last cyclone to hit Brisbane was 1958. So this is very rare.
So it's not like every year where people are still wondering why people live there, right? Like Florida and whatever.
You guys got enough stuff going on.
It's a beautiful city. It's actually the most sought after city in Australia right now. We do cop, because it's a tropical climate, we do cop, heavy rain periods, and we have had 2 major floods in the last 15 years, which is, if you live in a flooded...
Toronto gets one every year.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, everyone who's in a flooded property, like the level where floods happen, they're all in panic stations right now.
I feel like you guys got enough stuff to worry about with all the snakes and spiders and sharks. Like, you can't have cyclones too, man.
We'll take it all.
Crazy.
Nah, the snakes.
That's why they're so tough.
Yeah, it must be. Nah, snakes and spiders and all that. Yeah, we have them, but they're just, they're not just like in your house. You got to go looking for them.
I'm in Mexico, so we get our fair share of stuff too. So
yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure it's more dangerous there.
Probably
like walking down the street at night's more dangerous.
Yeah.
So back to your question. What was the original question? I went off topic a bit with cyclones.
No, yeah, you did well on who are you and what do you do. What's going on in Australia? Tell me about your real estate market. If I'm like an alien who just landed in Australia and I'm like, I want to buy real estate here, what are you going to tell me?
I would say you would look in Queensland, which is the state that I'm in, and
I've been there.
You've been there?
Yeah, right. I went. Yeah, I think I went snowboarding there. They got mountains there, right?
Not in Queensland. That would have been down south. We do have mountains, but not Queensland. But Brisbane is the central city for Queensland. It's a really hot city at the moment. We're hosting the Olympics in 2032, and it's kind of put Brisbane on the map a little bit, worldwide, because no one really knew. Ask any foreigner, name a city in Brisbane, in Australia, and they'll say Sydney or Melbourne, right? And Brisbane never comes up unless you've been here. But now Brisbane's kind of we are in we have a very tropical climate here, which is, mostly good because the weather's fantastic. Winter is not too cold. Summer can get pretty hot, but overall people seem to love the weather here. Lots of blue skies. And it's just a beautiful place to live. It's a great place to raise a family. It's very safe. It's probably too safe. There's so many rules for safety, but it is a super safe city. And, it's just been going crazy bonkers in the last few years, ever since COVID. Really, it became the city to move to during COVID. So some of the other cities had really, really strong restrictions with lockdowns and stuff. Melbourne was like one of the most miserable places to live on earth in lockdown. And a lot of people sold and moved to Brisbane. And since then, it's just really become the hottest city in Australia.
I got two questions. One, since I guess you said Brisbane's kind of been on like a bit of a upswing since like during the pandemic, have you found, because I think what we see from like we're Canadian and we analyze a lot like the American markets, and some of the places that got really big during the pandemic, they're now seeing like the opposite, lots of people leaving. Are you seeing people kind of sticking around in Brisbane?
Yes, and
Cool.
that's been the big difference, is that, you know, every city in the world pretty much had that COVID boom, and probably it went too far, and then, you know, following that, 22, 23, and 24, a lot of those cities and areas just experienced downturn. We kind of just went way up, and then sort of just sat at the same price, and we haven't really come back that much. Maybe a smidge, but the areas that have come back are really, you know, Sydney and Melbourne have experiencing much bigger downturns. And if we're talking about major cities, and then anywhere that's like anywhere that people buy, that's just like when you have too much money, you go and buy like coastal regions and
Right.
you know, beach properties. They always like, they're the ones that people buy when they've just, you don't need to live there, but you just want to live there.
For sure.
So they're coming
Florida
back a bit.
And then
it's probably the same thing there.
Yeah, in Tulum, we're experiencing the same thing. You know, like in Tulum, we had zero restrictions during the lockdown, so it was really cool to live here. It was the opposite of what we're used to in Canada. But yeah, now we're experiencing that kind of come down after COVID, where everybody's went back to real life. You know.
Yeah.
But part two of my question was, what's the average? Like, can you give us like some average price points from like a starter home? I'm guessing there's condos and stuff there. You know, can you give us average like price point for those?
Yeah. So in Brisbane is sort of on par with Melbourne pricing now. It always went, Sydney's the most expensive by far, and it's about double what you pay in Brisbane. And then it was always Melbourne after that. And then Brisbane was always the cheaper city. But Brisbane's caught up to Melbourne now. And so we actually have a higher median sale price compared to Melbourne, which is crazy because it's never, ever been in the whole history of ever. So we've just overtaken Melbourne in median house price. And I think it sits at about 1.1 million Australian dollars, which, you know, with the American exchange rate is about, say, 7.
Wow. Okay. That's average, like for like an average starter home, you're saying, yeah?
Yeah, average starter home. Yeah.
Cool. And then what about like a condo? Like get into what's like a? Do you guys have like studios and 1-bedroom condos, or is that not really?
Yeah, we got all that. So like standard 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom unit, which that would sit around brand new. You're looking at about 850, 900 Australian, and then secondhand, good condition, maybe 700,000, 750. Yeah.
Is that the terminology you guys use, secondhand? Because if that is that what you like, that's like the official realtor language, secondhand.
I don't think it is.
Either way, I'm taking it, dude. I'm bringing
resale.
That to Canada.
Like, what do we call it? Resale, used house.
Yeah, used secondhand. I don't even know what we call it. What do we call it? Just there's off the plan, brand new, or there's established.
Yeah,
we usually call. Yeah.
I'm going secondhand.
So it's very regal, actually, established.
Yeah.
Secondhand was giving me like Value Village vibes, right? Like, you know, Goodwill store.
Yeah, exactly. Thrift shop.
Yeah, thrift shop, thrift houses. Okay, so on the note, on this, like now that we're kind of into it, like resale market, etc. So I think Australia is one of the only places in the world that does this, other than maybe I think like Wales. You guys basically do like auctions for the most part, right? Like, can you explain to me how this whole thing works? Because
sure.
I mean, in Canada, we just discovered like bidding wars, and in the US they started doing the same thing, right? Like set the price really low, get a bunch of people out to throw an offer at it, build this like, you know, hype. But you guys have been doing this for a long time. Like you invented that stuff, right?
I think we did. Yeah, it's been going since World War times. We've been auctioning properties. It's one strategy. I wouldn't say that most properties are auctioned, and it certainly really differs from town to town. And it sort of needs to be embedded into the culture to become, you know, a frequent thing that everyone's sort of doing. So you'll find in Sydney, and Melbourne and the bigger cities, it's really prevalent auctions. But you know, you go anywhere outside the city to smaller regional towns and you know, even in cities, like there'll be some suburbs where auctions are really prevalent, and then a few suburbs over, no one does auctions. And it's really up to the agent to push the strategy. If the agent pushes strategy like this is the best way to get you the most money as we go to auction, and the agents are pushing it, then they will, you know, they're the ones that get the owners to accept, like, we're going to take this strategy, because there's multiple strategies to sell a home. And usually those strategies are, we put a price on it that's too high and we come down. It's a very traditional way to sell anything. There's like an offers above strategy where we price it a little bit lower than what we think, and we say offers from this price, which I tend to really like. It's sort of like, if you think something's worth $1 million, put offers over 950, and you're gonna get everyone interested because it looks like great value, and we'll see where the price goes from there. And we have sort of a, you know, behind closed doors bidding war where we're not allowed to let each buyer know what the price, what anyone's offer is. So it's not transparent. Okay,
Sorry.
It's still a very good strategy.
Can I ask questions? Okay, so for the second one, the one you just talked about, where you listed a little bit underneath asking price and you hold and you expect offers over, were you saying that so you don't have to let the other buyers know about each individual offer that's in play? You don't have to give the specifics, or you do?
We're not allowed to, actually. It's actually illegal to disclose another party's offer. So that's...
Hold on, wait, one more. Sorry. I have to know. When you say illegal, because I'll get into I want to ask you a question, but when you say illegal, like who's legally holding you accountable? Legally,
well, the rules developed by the Queensland Law Society.
Like a real legal.
It's really legal, yeah. We are not legally allowed to disclose another offer under a private treaty sale. Private treaty means putting a price on it, or having the property listed for sale without a price and just saying offers, taking all offers, or, you know, price by negotiation, or whatever title you want to put on it, where you just don't put a price and you just ask the buyers, what would you like to make an offer? And then you might give them some sort of guide around where it needs to be, and they make an offer. But you're not allowed to disclose that offer to another buyer. We're allowed to tell another buyer there is an offer on the table, and we can swing that, you know, any way we want by saying, look, it's a really strong offer. We expect to sell above a certain level. You really should make, but we can't actually tell them the offer. But that's the difference. That's the big difference between private treaty and auction. With auction, the price is transparent. Everyone can see what everyone else is willing to pay. And, you know, that's why we can achieve such high prices in an auction, because, you know, if you're a buyer, let's say, and there's a price of offers over 950 and you want to make an offer, and the agent says, hey, there's 3 other offers on the table. I can't tell you what they are, but you need to be the highest offer to win. You're just sitting there as the buyer going, well, what does it need to be? Holy shit. Should I offer $1 million? And this is the response from the agent. Well, if that's your best offer, put $1 million. But if it's any lower than the other offers, you're not going to buy it. Oh shit, the buyer's thinking, what do I offer? $1,025,000 then. Okay. Is that going to do it? It could. We can't tell them. Can't tell them. So and that's very frustrating for buyers, because, you know, let's say I put $1,025,000 and then the agent calls me back and says, sorry, mate, it's sold. Well, what did it sell for? $1,035,000. And you think, I would have paid that if I knew, right? Well, that's where auction brings the best out of people, because if it was an auction, that buyer at $1,035,000 would have had to bid to $1,035,000, and then this guy now knows, well, I have to go higher than that. And so it really draws the best price out of everyone.
Yeah, that's cool.
And that's why it can be super successful. And really, it's really successful when you have 2 or more bidders that really want it and are willing to pay, like, you know, a great price for it. That's when it really works amazingly.
Cool. I think so. We're actually in Canada. We use that second tactic that you talked about, where we wouldn't disclose the price to the other buyers. And the same thing, I've always said, I think transparency would actually get the sellers more money, because there's a lot of people that are leaving 5, 10K on the table because they don't know, you know?
That's right.
Do before I have a question. I have a bunch of questions. I have so many questions, man. As the realtor, if you choose to do an auction, do you like outsource an auctioneer, or are you expected to also be an auctioneer?
No, you can do it if you're the agent, but you have to be licensed. So it's a separate license to be an auctioneer. You have to, go through a course and actually, it's like sit the exams and all that and get your auctioneer's license to be an auctioneer. So not any random person can just do it.
Are you an auctioneer?
No, I'm not. I would like to be actually, but I have an auctioneer in my office who's also a great agent in my office, and he's been with Plum Property for so long, and I've always just let him be the auctioneer, and he's a great auctioneer, so I've never done it.
I know. I love the videos. You post a lot on there with the hilarious auctioneer ones, and they get me. If you guys aren't following this guy on Instagram, like
your socials like one of the best for sure. The Road to Tosser series was like OG.
Did you watch the Road stuff? Mate, that's OG stuff. That was like back in COVID days.
Oh yeah, that's what I sent that to Dave. Like as soon as we started the show, I was like, we have to get this guy on here for sure. And he's like, done. And he called you like the next day.
That day, I was like, I'm calling this guy. Yeah. This guy's so funny.
So do you guys have buyer agents then, or no? Like, how does that work? There's no like, how does it work?
Yeah, good question. So it's different here in North America. I believe over there, pretty much every transaction has a seller's agent and a buyer's agent. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so there's 2 commissions paid. I don't know who pays it. Over here, there's you don't need to use a buyer's agent, and most people don't use a buyer's agent. Okay. Buyer's agents are used usually for people that are really busy and they just don't have time to look for properties. And so, they're lawyers, they're professionals of some sort who it's just way too busy. They don't have time to go looking at properties every day, and they just would rather a professional do it for them, give them what they're looking for, and off goes this professional to find them and negotiate them a property. And so the fee's around 2.5%. So busy people who are moving cities will often use a buyer's agent because, flying to a city to go to open homes and check out properties might be just too hard. So, and they don't really know the areas, so they'll use a buyer's agent. And also during like COVID era, a lot of just regular people would start using buyer's agents because properties were just getting sold so quickly that no one could get in. And buyer's agents have all the connections with all the agents. And when an agent gets a property, they usually send it to all the buyer's agents first and go, hey, I've got this property. I'm launching it in a few weeks, but if you've got a buyer, you can bring them through. And so they often get, that first hookup to the property. So that was a big sell for buyer's agents as to why to sign up with them, is we'll get you early entry to properties. But as I said, most transactions are not done with a buyer's agent. So when agents, we really all just work for the seller. When we're signing up, we're only advertising ourselves to sellers really, like sell with us, we get you the best price. We're not advertising, buy with us, we'll do a great job buying your property. We only do the one side, which probably means there's, half the amount of agents in the marketplace because there's only half the amount of deals to be done because there's only one side to be doing it on. And the buyer's agent industry is probably 5% the size of the seller's agent industry.
Interesting.
So here, over there, everyone's got to use a buyer's agent, which is fairly strange in this day and age because we have a website. And there's 2 major ones. There's realestate.com.au, which is the biggest real estate portal. Every single agent in Australia, when they list a property, pay a fee to put their property on realestate.com. And so if you're
that's
a buyer,
your primary like MLS system, right?
And I don't know what an MLS system is, but
multiple listing services, like that's where they aggregate like all of the real estate listings in North America.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you must have a site like that, right? What is it? What's it called?
Yeah. Well, in the U.S., like there's boards on a state by state basis, and they get aggregated onto Realtor.com, or Zillow is actually like a private MLS that has taken over most of the boards. But then you've got in Canada, you've got an aggregator called Realtor.ca, and then
the
same thing.
Same thing. Yeah. Okay. So realestate.com. is like that. Everyone puts their listings on there. So you'll have the branded listing with the agency and then the agent's photo down the corner and then the property listing. And then you can flick through the photos of each one and then click into each listing and get all the information and whatever. And it'll tell you when the open home is and etc. And you can contact the agent so they can send an inquiry and it'll be emailed off to the agent or whatever, or you can just call them. So everyone puts their listings on there. So if you're a buyer and you're looking for a property, you basically go on this website and put in what area you're looking in and what price range and what type of property. You can put whatever filter in and up comes the list of properties and you flick through them and you look at which ones you want to inquire about and which open homes you want to go to. And you basically do your own research and contact agents and off you go. And then you go to a property and you look at it and you go, just talk to the agent like, oh, okay, how much is this one? How do I make an offer? And the agent just helps you to facilitate your offer. You need a buyer's agent to do that for you. So that's how it works here.
I think the one difference is that, so I actually met a friend who when I was speaking at Inman, and he's from Australia, and he was creating a platform where you could see all the bids online. You know, we don't have that in Canada. So he's trying to create like a software like a live auction software essentially. But I think the main difference for you guys versus us in North America is it's not like if the realtor were to mislead, it wouldn't be a lawful issue. It would be like a issue within our real estate council, which could be a fine, but you know, yours is legally an issue. Ours is not. So it's like, I think that's right. So that's the thing. It's like, well, is the listing agent, we call them listing agents or selling agents in Canada, or I guess the US, it's like, do you trust that person? But you guys are bound by law. So it's like, yeah.
In the US, there's a lot of like, it's more litigious as well. So there's a higher degree of trust because, you know, you're fearful of being sued basically if you do something wrong. Like in Canada, everything's a slap on the wrist. They did just start getting a little bit more serious with like the fines and stuff, but the consumer doesn't have a ton of recourse either. So that's interesting.
But how did that, so, okay, I think where a lot of people come to us as the buyer's agents, and it's becoming less and less important because of the internet, which is getting much more evolved. But I think for the longest time, we were really good at gatekeeping our information. Realtors, we're great at gatekeeping, and now it's all public information. But where would people go in Australia to see the comparables of what's sold? Like, is there a website you guys have, or like, say I'm a buyer and I want to buy your listing? It's like, how would I know if you're doing the strategy where you list it under market value and you know you're expecting a little bit more? How would I, as an educated buyer, know what to price it at if you can't tell me?
Well, usually it's by doing research and going around and looking at all the other properties on the market. Okay. So when you get a feel for it as a buyer, you don't know when you like first jump on the computer and start looking on your first day. It's kind of difficult to sort of understand what properties are worth, but it doesn't take long to figure it out. Yes. If you go out for two Saturdays and look at 5 properties on each Saturday in the price range that you have, you quickly figure it out. And then like you might make an offer on one, you don't get it because you don't offer enough. And then you find out, okay, that one sold for this price. And then you start seeing, oh, that one I saw there, that one sold for this price, and you quickly work it out. But, you know, the agents will also give buyers information about recent sales in the area if they need to help them. Yeah.
Since we're talking about like the fees and real estate fees and commissions, I think we talked about this on the phone briefly, but who's paying for staging costs? Is that on the, like, who's getting the property ready who's paying for the marketing fees, the photos, videos, staging, all that stuff?
Yeah, so the sellers pay for that in Australia the majority of the time. Agents can throw it in with package. There are agents that say, you know, my fee is 2.5%, and I'll do the advertising for you as well. But usually they'll just do really basic shit advertising. So, you know, over here our fees are separate. You pay for the commission. That's separate. It's you know, on average 2.5% plus tax, which is another 10% of the fee. And then the marketing can sit anywhere between, say, $3,000 and $6,000, depending on location, because the price differs on realestate.com. That's the main difference, depending on area. And that's a separate fee. So sellers usually pay for that before we list, and that takes the risk away from the agent and the agency if the property doesn't sell. then we're not having to spend our time and our money. The time is already enough that has been spent.
That happens a lot here. Dan, I got one question before. I know you maybe have one here, but
no, keep going. Yeah, no, I'm enjoying
the
this.
one thing that I honestly found the most interesting from our phone call is that in North America, well, okay, I'll speak for Canada. In Canada, it benefits me drastically to meet with other realtors and be around the realtors and befriend them and chat them up, and because we work together a lot. But the one thing that's different where you are is that like you don't really need to communicate with other realtors because you're never really like not that often collaborating, right? Or it's less frequent.
Yeah, it's very infrequent that we collaborate with other agents because we're all just out there competing to get the listings, and we don't really meet each other once you've got the listing. We collaborate with buyers agents a lot,
right?
But as I said, most buyers aren't engaged with a buyer's agent, so it's only a little bit. But yeah, agents don't like the attitude of agents in Australia is kind of negative. Most agents have this like puffed up chest, like they see another agent, they're like, look at that douchebag. And they don't even know them. They just know that it's an agent that doesn't work in their business, so they don't like them. It's Agents don't typically tend to like each other in general. I mean, I don't give a shit. I like everyone, but that's just like the kind of the overarching.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I'll tell you the truth. It's kind of weird when it happens here too. Like I always get like the classic, mostly I think the word is out on me. There must be some EXP group that's like, don't approach Dan. He's going to make you feel like shit, but I'll get somebody to slide into my DMs and they're like, hey, have you thought about your retirement? And I'm like, no, I'm fully planning to work until I die. Like, what do you, but it's, to me, the joke is like, if you guys spend as much time, no disrespect, because I love all agents. I'm like you, Dan, but I'm like, if you guys spend as much time following up with your actual clients as you did with agents, like you would all be so successful. You wouldn't give a shit if you were getting stocks or downline or anything, right? So that's just my 2 cents on the whole matter.
No, you're right. No, it's hard because they have to sell real estate, like there's very few realtors that actually sell real estate. So it's like you can have 150 people, but if none of them are selling real estate, well, you're not making any money,
Yeah, I think the other part is like there's kind of a customer service aspect. Like there's an expectation, right? Like, hey, you brought me onto this brokerage, like I get to ask you questions now or whatever as well, right? Which I think a lot of people don't realize what they're signing. Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize they're signing themselves up for that, right? Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
that's exactly how it is.
No, you're absolutely right, dude. It's exactly what happens.
That's exactly how it was. I did that. That was me. I had that exact situation happen. No, not. I was actually briefly for like a little bit, but I went to a different one. Anyways, it was just that exactly. You get 1 million people underneath of you, and when you actually calculate how much you make off of each person and the amount of hours that are going into them, it's like it's not worth it. But okay, well, you said you have like a team where you're bringing on, you help agents, yeah. So is it like kind of a team structure type thing? Like you're the mentor and then they can kind of rely on you a little bit? I think that's the way to go though, honestly. Even that's kind of how the team structure, I think the team culture in Canada, that's how I led my team. Even when I had a team, I still have a small team, but when I had a larger team, it was always teaching them how to build their own brand instead of just, hey, come to my team with my face and my logo. And then you got to give me commission. And then, I don't think that works anymore. Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. We have the same kind of setup here a little bit. You mentioned the rentals. So I'm kind of curious, are there a lot of investors? This is my really dumb question. Are you working with a lot of investors? Like who's the main purchaser of properties right now? For example, in Canada and the US, the first time home buyers are dropping drastically because they just can't afford it anymore for whatever reason. But we're seeing first time home buyers drop drastically. And also in Toronto specifically, the investors are kind of not really around either. So like who's the client profile that's buying property right now in Brisbane? Wow. Okay. Right.
Yeah. Interesting.
Wow. Yeah. So like are the rentals performing well in Brisbane? Like are the rental prices on the rise? Are they kind of stabilized? Yeah, we're seeing the exact same thing. I think over the last maybe, well, I guess a couple of years now, it's like that's the exact conversation that we have in Toronto too. It's like if you're buying this, like, who's winning in Toronto, in my opinion, or Canada, I'll say Toronto, is the first time home buyers, the people that are buying to stay there a little bit, the people that are trying to make a quick dollar or flip or make it some crazy investment. It's not really the play right now. But right, 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 right. Wow. So capital gain tax is applied even if it's your primary residence. If sold, no.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. 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 Easy. I mean, I guess I think I'd probably rather do that than give away half. To be honest.
I think it's like Dave touched a little bit on foreign investment, like a huge thing that we've seen happen. It like happened in a big way, kind of pre-COVID, during COVID, quite a bit, and then now it seems to have unwound a little bit. Like you're starting to see more like nationalistic sentiment, where a lot of governments are actually banning foreign investment and stuff like that. Canada's banned foreign investment. A lot of the more the remote work areas like Spain and Portugal have gotten have done things to get rid of all of the crypto bros. What's going on like with who would be the biggest foreign investors in Australia? Like you guys are much more geographically proximate to China than Canada, but we had a ton of Chinese capital coming into Canada, a lot of Indian capital coming into Canada, and from Iran as well. Like, is it kind of the same big three, or what's going on with that? Yeah,
For sure.
yeah.
But they can only buy a pre-build, right? They can't buy. Okay. Really?
So could they have it as like could it be like a seasonal residence? Like if there is like a cottage or something? Right. Is that like, sounds like a enforcement nightmare. Like, is that actually like how does that get enforced? Like, how do they check? You guys have a good taxman. I feel like in Canada, they don't know all that much, to be honest. Like,
Yeah, Canada's different for sure.
it's definitely different.
Yeah. What about is Airbnb a big thing in Australia or not really? Like, is it other restrictions against it? Interesting. It's kind of the same in Toronto. They're really cracking down. It's really challenging because, for example, let's say there's thousands of condos in downtown Toronto. Only maybe 10 or 15 of them are actually allowed to Airbnb. It has to be within the condo rules and declaration that you're allowed to Airbnb. And the fines are massive, right? Man, I don't know, take up too much of your time. I know you got a cyclone coming and you got to hunker down and put up it's still coming, but no, man, we appreciate you, man. Honestly, I know. Well, what time is it there? What time is it? See, I know. I was watching the time and I was like, man, this guy's got to go probably. Look, dude, we appreciate you so much. Honestly, I think if you're not following Dan on Instagram, you're literally missing out. I watched all your stuff, man. I think you're one of the funnier dudes I've met, and it's cool that you're also doing it in a way to provide value. I think you're doing incredible things, man, and what a treat it was to have you on. So thanks so much, man.
I appreciate it, man. And we'll put all your info in the show notes. So, but if people want to find you, where should they do that? Awesome. There you go. Okay. Thanks, man.